welcome back to another episode, my lords, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for tuning in. For stopping by. I hope this message finds you safe and well and warm and melting in this diabolical heat that we're all having to sit through. It's terrifying. Bob, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very, very good. It's been a good week. Been doing a lot of outside stuff, so I've got a bit of a tan and yeah, just feeling a good place.
Amazing. Can't say fairer than that. I always feel quite like I need to have gossip at these kinds of points when we start these podcasts. When my wife will ask me at the end of the day or the start of the day, "Have you got any goss? Have you been up to much?" There's
No.
not really a there's not really a lot to get into. Besides, oh, this new study was published. It's upset someone, you know, one
Oh,
of those kinds of
yeah.
materials. So, ladies and gents, tonight is the Dark Triad. It is primarily concerned with Machiavellianism, primarily concerned with narcissism, really looking at how each trait presents in professional and personal settings. Competent people will very often misread the signs in front of them. And really what we need for this is a working method. A working method for pattern recognition and how that looks out in the field when you're using it, because that dreaded word that I loathe with a violent and contemptuous passion, guessing, is not good enough. So there's this basic idea to start. People build their mental model of the Dark Triad from movie villains, from the smirking executive, from the spinning office chair and the stroking of the white cat, the office psychopath, all cast for maximum menace. That model fails on contact with reality, sadly, because it primes you to look for signs of malice instead of signs of the pattern. The traits that make up the Dark Triad aren't these audition pieces for James Bond movies. They are stable dispositions that show up in how someone handles ordinary moments, not extraordinary ones. The person running high on these traits, frequently the one closing deals, hitting targets, getting the good reference letter, charm and results. They are the delivery mechanism, not the glasses with the mustache that's attached. When you say,
Yeah, 100%. I think that again, we have to keep coming back to what people post, and I had a little look today, and some of the podcasts and that around this subject are just awful. We talk about in general putting people in boxes, and these certainly have been in boxes, because if you think about it, if you're a bit if you are chasing goals, are you not going to be a bit ruthless? If you're trying to impress someone, is it kindness or is it manipulation? There is such a fine balance between these things, and I think we have to come from the point of view, I don't know about yourself, that this is like a spectrum, just like a lot of other behaviors
yeah,
are on a spectrum. And yeah, I could admit I've been a little bit manipulative sometimes with people's feelings to get a response that I want. Does that make me, suffering from psychopathy or a narcissist? I think it probably does, but I think then
mhm,
we all are to a little bit of an extent, because at the
yeah,
end of the day, our main concern is ourselves, isn't it?
100%,
And
100%.
we have to have basic needs met.
Mm,
And so we're all a little bit that way, but there are people who are more in that frame. And they're the ones that we need to be able to spot. And it's difficult because having spoken to someone who does marriage counseling and things like that, and these relationships, then you see a lot of Machiavellian behavior in relationships. Usually, when we think of that, we think of men, but it can be women as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't let us hog all of the proverbial glory in that particular side of things. But yeah, absolutely. I've always thought of it um, like a vacation. The average person walking the streets will vacation on these traits, but then come back to go, oh, I'm back to empathy, I'm back to compassion, I'm back to understanding, I'm back to critical thinking. The ones that you were determined to be more Machiavellian, more narcissistic as a human trait would be those people that
Mm,
tend to stay there for a little bit longer, as
mm.
as investigators, you're trained on behavioral deviance. There's the flinch response, the inconsistencies, the tells. Corporate professionals might be trained to reward output in those situations. I think neither catches a colleague who's really consistently charming, consistently strategic, consistently getting what they want at someone else's expense, because nothing about that pattern looks like a deviant on a
Mm.
Tuesday, and that's the trouble with the lack of the lack of conversation, really, around the ideas of this being a spectrum of
Yeah,
traits. If you're only aware of one whole in that particular journey, then that's the only thing you're going to be accustomed to be able to see. It's that
yeah,
proverbial well-meaning, well-intentioned student who's going to go, I'm going to go out and practice my lie detection skills. Great, best intentions to do it, but within that is the inherent bias, because you're going to see everything as a lie in that
yeah,
situation. And if you're only aware of, you know, um, the Hannibal Lecters of the world, that just ooze charisma and charm and intelligence, then the yardstick for the nefarious human interactions around that is going to be difficult to measure. You know?
yeah. I think it's also saying if you think of it as a spectrum, then there must also, in that case, be a light triad as well as a dark triad. And the light triad, from what I've seen, it's got various descriptions. People have talked about it, but one of the ones that comes up a lot is faith in humanity.
Mm.
It seems to be a constant. So, whereas, and that is maybe the opposite to narcissism. Narcissism is about faith in yourself, isn't it? And you feed off of the attention and
Yeah.
admiration that you, and to be fair, I come across them a lot, and people I work with are going to come
Mm.
across a lot of those in business, especially when people start to get up in those higher positions. And, you
Yeah.
say to people, well, and I had it a few weeks ago. Someone said they're going in to do a pitch to someone. What do you know about this person? Have they got lots of friends?
Mm.
Do people, is he the guy who sits with other people when he's eating and all that, all these sort of things? And
Mm.
you think,
Mm.
well, maybe he's the sort of guy that you need to show admiration towards, because he probably is somewhere on that journey between light and dark triad of narcissism.
Absolutely.
Because I think we have to accept that it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, and like all of these things, like every psychopath is Hannibal Lecter. No, they're not.
No.
They're not. There's people that I see on the TV every day who got in government who you could say
Oh yeah.
um, haven't got empathy, are callous and remorseless. And Nigel
Mm.
Farage jumps right to the front of the queue, and as a narcissist as well. But I do think
Absolutely.
that he's got psychopathic tendencies.
Mm.
He is just about himself.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think he's got any empathy for people that are the little people. And so it's not, and all you have to do, really, I think that from my point of view, what we're doing here tonight is to say to people, just recognize it.
Mm.
And like everything, if you want to get relationships, then you have to accept the masks people wear. and you have to talk to the mask because that's what they're presenting, what they want you
Mm,
to do. And if you can
mm,
use some of the techniques we talk about to consciously do that, to get the relationship going,
yeah,
then I think it's a you're being manipulative in yourself, but you're not, because you're playing to those strengths that that
absolutely.
person wants. So it is, to me, it is a subject that you can't do in half an hour like we're going to do, but it is something that is so interwoven in the business world, all of these, that you have to be able to do real reads, not the reads you see online where they watch videos and say, oh, this bloke's doing that, so it means this. That isn't what this is about. It's not about that. It's about patterns, isn't it?
It is. It is, and, you know, I was as the credit song was rolling for the timer, the countdown, I w there was I'm thinking about all the things that we have to talk about with narcissism in the Dark Triad,
Mm.
and I was immediately gonna pick on, YouTube as a collection for that, mostly
Mm.
because there is a balance in there has to be, because there are a lot of people in there who they are their brand. It's not a company per se.
Mm.
They've put their personality, their face, their skill, whatever it is, to the acquisition of money, the development of the
Mm.
business. And one of the when you're talking about the light triad, one of the I was like, yeah, I'm vindication in those particular
Mm.
moments. I've always been like I've got a lot of religious friends, and I'm kind of dancing around this. I've got a lot of religious friends from a lot of different religions. I'm
Mm.
about as religious as I am. I don't know. No tattoos. You know, I couldn't be any less religious if I tried
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
those moments. And the closest that I get to having any kind of faith is in people, is in people.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna paraphrase the greatest American idiot of our generation, Mr. Homer Simpson. He was referencing alcohol, but human beings really are the cause of and solution to all of
Mm.
life's problems in that situation. So when you look at the dark triad, it's not a diagnosis. It's not a personality type. It's not like you're going to say,
Mm.
"Well, I am B3 on the dark triad," or it's not a label that you can just pin on someone after a bad meeting. It is a specific psychological construct that's made up of these three distinct but really correlated subclinical traits:
Mm.
narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. They tend to travel together in the same person without any one of them
Mm.
reaching a clinical threshold. Subclinical being the operative word there. So it's not about people who qualify for a diagnosis in your view, the proverbial your. It's about ordinary people sitting at ordinary desks who score higher than average on traits that, in combination, produce this recognizable operating style in those situations. And you could, when you're mentioning of Nigel Farage, people might immediately go, "Oh, I roll," but just stop and recognize that for a second.
Mm.
Put aside your opinions one way or the other, and look at the actions, the traits of the individual when faced with helping anyone anywhere. His immediate opportunity, his immediate inclination is to help himself
Mm.
in some way. You know, that's the recognition of the difference there. That's not to say that he can't help someone else, but it would be in support of himself in those
Mm.
situations.
Intelligence doesn't guarantee influence. If you can't communicate and do so clearly, your ideas die in translation. Productive communications teaches you how to understand behavior, how to navigate tension, and how to create real clarity in conversation. No manipulation, no scripts, just behavioral insight applied correctly. So if you want fewer misunderstandings and more control in conversation, go to omniscient-insights.com/procoms, or right here.
That's really the recognition of the narcissistic element, the Machiavellian element, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be confident pushing the psychopathy definition, but if the definition slips in the moments, then it's not something that we are looking to push people into providing these labels around. It is an idea that informs how you interact with someone else. You know, another one would be Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk. On the one hand, the things that he's doing with, well, I say the things that he's the face of, and the team are doing with Neuralink, talking about, curing blindness, which, if it can be done, wow, wow. But what's the pursuit for him in those situations? Did he really just take the company public to gain a trillionaire status? And I'm just asking questions that you do of other people, that you do in situations that
Yeah.
inform how you interact with relationships.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Elon Musk is a good example of how you could get it so wrong, and how
Yeah.
the surface level looking at people without knowing the context and without knowing the person can take you down the wrong path. Because if you
Well,
look at, just say, for instance, psychopathy, some of the basic traits are no empathy.
mm,
And that could be someone who's on the autistic spectrum.
100%.
Just as well, and that doesn't make them psychopaths. It just makes them,
No.
that's who they are. And
Yeah.
so if we go from that point of view where we're looking at things through very narrow lenses, that's why I'm not a great believer. I'm a believer in understanding all
Uh,
these different aspects of behavior. But when we're looking at someone, we just look at them, well, that's who they are. Do
uh,
we have to put titles on what they are? If we see a guy and we're dealing with a guy who has got low empathy,
uh,
we shouldn't jump to it, well, he's this or he's that. We just say
yeah.
he's got low empathy.
Yeah.
And we deal with that as that person, because I think
uh,
that too much of people who maybe lack the understanding and the wide bandwidth that maybe we do, who are
uh,
looking at the jobs that we do and the teaching that we do to other people, think that it's all about putting people in boxes. And it's not. It's not putting people in, because I'm sure that there's such a crossover, and everyone is on spectrums, on
mm,
different spectrums. And so when you're dealing with them, you're dialing things up and you're just seeing as you go along.
mm,
That's why it's so wrong to
yeah.
judge people on facial expressions or movements, and that it's got to be on much more than that.
Mm.
Because otherwise you're just doing surface level. Do you agree?
100%. I could not agree more. Like, to call back to the guy, Elon Musk, there's the whole thing about his Asperger's, and
Yeah.
the only publicly known diagnosis is him talking about it on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And that's not to say he hasn't had it done. He doesn't have to give that out anywhere. But the review that this idea, it's almost like memetics. That this idea
Yeah.
kind of that permeates everyone else. So, oh, he's autistic, and then no one questions it further. Like, oh, he's a genius. His IQ's I don't know, 150, 160, whatever it is. He's never had his IQ formally tested, ever.
No.
So
No.
these kind of, that's the trouble with the YouTube culture, the BuzzFeed article culture. I've seen crossed arms, therefore it's this. When we go that this person has low empathy or huge amounts of empathy
Yeah.
in the heads of somebody that just consumes these YouTube videos of the this means this, you are already jumping to a judgment. When we're saying huge amounts of empathy or low amounts of empathy, we're saying it is a collection of these likely traits. Let's
Yeah.
go and explore where they touch in other areas. So it's not holding the fixed point of something like, well, what's the right word? A judgment. A
Yeah.
judgment is really fixed. We're holding an idea. We're holding one string to their personality bow in
Yeah.
whatever context that you're in. I mean, like, if you were to look at workplace narcissism, I'm just making up the definition there. Narcissism found in the workplace. It doesn't run on a single engine. It
No.
runs on two. So
Yeah.
it's admiration seeking and rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah.
They produce almost opposite behavior, but from the same underlying traits. The admiration seeking drives self-promotion, it drives charm,
Yeah.
it drives the development of one's talent for making people feel like they are in the presence of someone impressive. The rivalry drives something maybe a little colder. Devaluing competitors, punishing perceived slights, treating any threat to status as something to be neutralized
Mm.
rather than absorbed. There's nuance in that simple difference. When you think of there's a Denis Villeneuve film that I really liked because it was about language. What was it called? That Denis Villeneuve film about language we watched together. Terrible. She put it on. But there was this line in it that, talking about the communication of understanding, Amy Adams is trying to learn an alien
Mm.
language. Pardon? Arrival, thank you. It's called Arrival.
Okay.
And, she's talking about, the communication of language and the need for nuance and granularity and how we understand each other, and she was like, "So, if I teach you through using a game, you'll only understand win, lose, or draw. That's how you'll see all the information through. So if you teach the nuance of the Dark Triad or human behavior or nonverbals or whatever it is, in the kind of seen this, therefore this, then you do a disservice to the entire interaction points everywhere. Because you're seeing it in black and white terms. It's just the way that you've ingested those lessons. Might have been easy to ingest them for sure, but it does you a
Yeah.
disservice in terms of connecting with another human being, regardless of the positive or negative traits that they show you.
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception is good people are always trusting and kind,
Mm,
and bad people are always evil. No, they're not. They're not. It's much more nuanced than that.
mm,
And I'm thinking now, and I can remember a boss who was very, what would you say? He was very humanist in his approach and that. But
okay.
at a time, because of what was happening, he
Mm,
had to be
mm,
very self-centered and
yeah.
very instructive, and not caring about your feelings, really, just telling you what
Mm,
you had to do. Because in that situation that I'm thinking about, it could have been said that it was, if not life or death, it was serious injury or
mm,
serious harm to someone.
mm,
And so, you know, we've all got that spectrum within us. It's just that some people tend towards that end, and you need to know what that basic elements of that person are. And I would much rather just do an assessment of that person, and this is what they would show. They're a little bit remorseless, they
mm,
seem a bit emotionally detached. um, I've checked to see if that is something in their psychological makeup, or if it's something that they've been born with, or whatever you want, however you want to say that. But the actual analysis is not against, I want to put them in that box or that box. It's that I want to do the best for that person who's in front of me.
mm,
And if that's as far as I can get with it, because their mask is so tight, that's all they want to show, then that's what I'll have to deal with.
mm,
And unless they're coming to me because they want to explore who they are, then
mm,
that's fine. And as long as you can get that understanding, because if we look at conversations, as far as I'm concerned, all we're looking for is, not every conversation is going to be a cuddle. Sometimes
yeah.
it's just about getting an alignment with that person. And as long as we can get aligned, then we can deal with them. It might make us cautious to deal with them again, but then again, in a different circumstance, they might could be different.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that although it's a really good subject, it is something that personally I don't really get too deep in. I mean, if I saw real, like if there was someone said to me, "Oh, my son's pulling the legs off of spiders and being
Yeah.
nasty to the cat," or something like that, then I might
Yeah.
start thinking about it. But
Mhm.
that's extreme, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
we're not talking about extremes. We're not
No.
sensationalizing anything. We're talking about day-to-day interactions. And just be aware that people that you come into contact with, you're going to see who they want you to see. And they could be hiding something behind that, and that may slip out. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel any more drawn towards them or away from them.
That's
Just
it.
be careful, because someone who is very kind to you could be trying to manipulate you.
That's it.
Someone who is a little bit detached from you, that might just be who they are.
Mm. Mm.
That's my message really from this.
Yeah. I mean, 100% through that. Like, there might be a moment where people will go, "Wow, how dare he talk to his wife in that way when he couldn't remember the name of the bloody film?" It's facts. That's
Yeah.
100% true. But the individual has no idea of the comedic relationship that we share, which would give you a better view of how to
Yeah.
determine those kinds of
Yeah.
interactions. The same moving forwards. Like, I I I I don't know how to take compliments, but when I've done something that is worthy of a compliment, I will let it sit. But if I'm just going about my day, or I'm working at the office, I'm preparing paperwork or whatever it is that I'm doing,
Mm.
and somebody pays me a time hungry compliment in that moment, first thing I'm thinking is, why?
Yeah.
Not from the bitter neurotic kind of position at all. I'm just asking why. It's akin to a dating tactic called love bombing. If you've been together for a couple of weeks and somebody's talking about, like, "Oh, if you get me in a way that nobody else does, I can see myself spending the rest of it," and you go, before they even know what your coffee order is.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, no. It's out of sync in that kind of situation, and
Yeah.
that's really all we're saying in those
Yeah.
moments. Yeah,
And that's where we have to be careful. I mean, we're saying all that we're saying because, we're talking about in sort of general, but when we come to things like romance frauds,
mm,
then you have to be aware, but they're not necessarily linked to a type. They're just techniques that people use,
yeah,
and you don't have to be Machiavellian to use those techniques, or a narcissist. You're just using those techniques because you know they work.
exactly.
It probably means that you are somewhere in this to be able to do that anyway. But
Mm,
I again, I don't think that actually trying to I know I'm actually dissing a whole branch of psychology by saying this,
mm,
but I don't think that for the average day-to-day person, it isn't healthy for them to say, "Oh, I must be talking to a psychopath today," or it's much better to say, "I'm just speaking to someone who is showing these traits, and I need to
yeah,
be able to know and be safe when I'm dealing
mm,
with them."
that's it. That's it. So, yeah, as a final idea, I'll let mine with, especially when it comes to the Dark Triad, avoid reaching for the easy, neat solutions. And oh my God, how can the diagnostic criteria of a psychopath be easy? If you're not a psychiatrist, it's
Mm.
easy to label someone a psychopath
Yeah.
just because they have a few recognizable traits, and then it ratifies the growing problem that's in your head. Just be wary of those situations happening. When the questions arise, don't run from them. Inspect them. Find the solutions that are in there that you can use.
Mm.
Bob, how about yourself?
I would say is be open-minded when you meet people. Try not to have expectations, and don't judge people from fragments, because fragments will take you down rabbit holes. And the thing is, also, I suppose the other thing with labeling people, once you put that label on the people, you're going to start putting loads of biases up for yourself about
Yep.
dealing with them. And the other thing
Said.
I would say is, if you really want to know about these subjects and you really want to get an understanding of them, then reach out to Ben or myself. And we run events and courses that cover these issues in a much more open way than trying to put people in boxes.
Absolutely. The information of which will be in the description box underneath when this goes out as a polished episode on Friday. If you're tuning in today on the Tuesday, this is just the live stream version. So yes, folks, if you have been one of the folks that have joined us in live, thank you. Don't be afraid to post your questions and make your comments during. We'd love to hear from you and interact and talk about this as much as we humanly possibly can. This is obviously ample time, an opportunity for you to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. We'd love to see you again for another episode, but with that in mind, we shall love you and leave you, and we'll see you again very soon. Take it easy.